Hello, welcome, and thank you for participating in our webinar. Today we're going to cover how to configure a beroNet device with 3CX IPBX system. We will start the webinar with a quick overview of beroNet and our technology, and then dive directly into configuring a beroNet gateway with 3CX. Once again, if you have any questions, please enter them into the chat box. My colleague Jean will conduct the training and answer many of your questions. He's been working at beroNet for 2 years and focuses on providing exceptional service and support for our customers. Jean, let's go ahead and get started.
Thank you, Jeff. Hi, everybody. So I'm Jean from beroNet, and I will be presenting you today the way we configure a beroNet gateway with a PBX from 3CX. Before we get started, let me just say a few words about beroNet. We are a German company which was created in Berlin in 2002, and since then we've been designing and creating voice over IP gateways and appliances. And all our devices are engineered and made in Germany. First, let's say a few words about our products. What is the difference between our solution and the competition? We create the first cloud-managed voice over IP gateways and appliances, which means that once you've installed the gateway or your appliance at a client's place, you do not need to go there to manage it. You can do everything from any web browser you have, and it is very easy to do this. Then we have a very neutral and open solution, which means that we are compatible with any solution. Today's webinar is focusing on our partnership with 3CX. So I'm going to show you how to configure a beroNet gateway with 3CX, but of course you could apply the same for any IPBX or for any old PBX. Then we have a modular solution, which means that depending on the technology you want to use, we always have the right module that fits your needs. I'm going to show you this a little bit later again. And finally, we have a very easy-to-use solution, which means that once you've been trained, and for example, after this technical webinar, you will be able to configure the gateway very easily. Of course, we are now recording the webinar, so you will be able to access it from YouTube, and I will also send to you all the PDF version that I'm now presenting you. Regarding the modularity of our solutions, we have something that looks like this. First of all, we created our card, which is a PCI or PCIe card, and as you see, we can put up to 2 modules on it. So depending on the access technology you want to use, you just have to use and choose the right modules and add it to your solution. So we always have VoIP inside, voice over IP, and then you just have to choose the right modules. So we have 8 different ones, FXO, FXS for analog solutions, hybrid with BRI and FXS, and then we have digital modules, BRI and PRI. Finally, we have the GSM for special cases. Then once we had built this card, we had requests to have them into a box that you could put outside of your server. So we created the beroNet gateway, which is very simply our card with an aluminum box. So it's the same way of configuring the gateway, the same modularity and the same cloud management. And we also had some people asking for a complete solution with an IPBX and a card. That's when we created our telephony appliance, which is composed of a server on which you can install any solution, any IPBX solution, 3CX for example, and then on the right part you have our card with the modularity and all the know-how from beroNet. That being said, I'm going to show you how to configure now the beroNet gateway with a 3CX, but as you understood, the card, the gateway, and the appliance can all be configured the same way. So it doesn't matter which product you choose, it all happens the same way. Let's see what we're going to see today. First of all, I'm going to show you the beroNet web interface. We do everything from easy and intuitive web interface, and I'm going to walk you through this interface so that you understand how we work. Then once you've understood the way the web interface works, we are going to do a very quick and fast automatic configuration from the 3CX to show you how strong our partnership is and how easy it is to use our solution with the 3CX. And finally, I'm going to show you how to configure some FXS ports as intern extension of the 3CX, which is just a little bit more tricky, but also very easy to use. So I don't see any questions for the moment. Very well. And my friend Jeff is doing a great job answering all of you. So I'm just going to go on. The first question we ask ourselves is how to find out which IP address has the gateway. How to access it from its IP address, because I prepared this here. I just accessed my web interface with this IP address, but the question is which IP address it is and how do I find it. For this, we developed a tool which we call beroNet, and which shows you all the beroNet gateways or cards or appliances, always the same, that you have on your network. Here at beroNet, we have, as you see, 14 of them because we are all testing our own gateways. That's why it's a bit messy, but you should only have 1 or 2 in your network, so it will be easier. As for me, I know which IP addresses I have, so I have this one, the 29.101, which we find here. The first time you log in your beroNet gateway, the default credentials are admin. They have been saved, so I just have to log in. I already have a question here, a good one actually. The default IP address for the web interface, well, currently with our current firmware, it is 10.0.0.2, as you see here. This is a new arrived gateway. But with an update that will come soon, the DHCP will be activated, and so it will take an IP address that your DHCP server will have given it. If we take a look at what the BFDetect can do, for example, if I have my new arrived gateway, I just can press the select device number 3, enter, and then I can change its IP settings. So for the moment, we ask you to use the BFDetect in order to change the IP settings of your new gateways. But once the new version of the firmware will arrive, the DHCP will be activated, and you will just have to see which IP addresses it has thanks to the BFDetect tool. All right. Here we are on our gateway. The first thing we see is those tabs here. These tabs help you to configure the gateway in a very easy way. It's pretty easy to understand what they do. In the management, you have all the tools to to debug your gateway. For example, dial plan debug or the trace that are very important. I will come back to this later. In the preferences, you can just change all the configuration you want, network settings, for example. In the hardware part, you have an idea of the solution and the access technologies that you have on your gateway. Depending on the modules, of course, it changes. Here we can see that I have 2 BRI and 2 FXS on my gateway. It is one module, so this is what we see here. Also, it is here that we can choose if we want to use our gateway as our ISDN lines are as TE or NT, meaning if you want to connect an ISDN line to your 3CX, or if you want to make an traditional PBX compatible with voice over IP. It's very easy, just have to click here and then it's done. Then on the PSCN Plus, it is where we can configure our ports. In the SIP part is where we can configure our SIP account, and in the dial plan is where we can connect our ports with a SIP account. The idea of a gateway is that we have different technologies. We want to make them talk to each other as fast as possible and very easily. That's why we have on our side, on one side, BRI and FXS, on the other side, SIP, and then we connect everything in the dial plan. I have another interesting question here. If we have to buy the module separately, or do they come directly with the gateway? Good question. The idea is that when you buy a gateway, you usually ask a module to come with. You can buy them separately, but if you have a gateway with only voice over IP, well, actually you need a module, so it's better to buy them together. All right. So let's get to business. How do I connect my BRI and FXS ports to my 3CX? Well, the first thing that we have to do is configure those ports. So let's go to PSTN Plus. We click on ISDN BRI, and here we can add some ports. I will add one. A pop-up window opens, so you will have to enable those. Here, we just have to give it a name, BRI, for example. We don't have to be very original. Then we choose the ports that we want to have inside of this group. The idea is that we can apply different rules depending on the ports. If we have one call coming from one port and another call coming from the other, we can apply different rules. But if you want to apply only one rule to all the ports, we can just put them in the same group of port. Then what we can also change is the tone. Here we are in Germany, so I'm just going to leave it like this because we have people from all over the world listening. So I'm just going to leave the German tone. So we gave it a name. We chose the ports that we had to put in, and then we can change the tone. Otherwise, as you can see, we have other kinds of configuration we can change, and even more here. But for 80 to 90% of the installations, especially with 3CX, you don't need to change anything. So let's just click on Save and carry on. As you can see here, I have an orange activate that just popped up. What we can do is either activate the configuration we changed right now or activate it later. We have three kinds of activates, one yellow, one orange, and one red. The orange and red one will cut the calls that you're doing, and you will have a notification telling you this, no problem. And the yellow one will only apply the configuration without changing the way the gateway is working when you change this. So it's pretty quick, and of course the red one, which needs to reboot the gateway, is a bit longer. Now that we've created the BRI ports, let's go back to state. And here we see that they have been created. They are red, of course, because we still haven't plugged any line to them. If we plug a BRI line, they turn green, of course, if the line works properly. Now let's configure the analog ports. What is type TE? Type TE is what I explained earlier, is what we can find here. Type TE is depending if you want to connect an ISDN line to your PBX, to your IPBX, or if you want to make your old PBX compatible with voice over IP. So TE is what you will choose if you want to connect an ISDN line to your 3CX. It's the default one, so you don't have to change anything. Otherwise, you just click here and put it here like this. Let's go back to our analog ports that I can also configure. By the way, FXS means, well, FXS is an analog technology which is used in gateways in order to connect analog endpoints to your IPBX. So if you have a fax or a telephone, for example, you want to connect it to your IPBX, your 3CX, you need a gateway for this, then you choose the FXS kind of gateway. Okay, let's give it a name. FXS, very original once again. We put one port here. We could put both of them, but just to change, we're going to put only one. And here we can change the tone as well. Once again, most of the configuration here is enough for 80% of the configuration. So let's just save. As you see, we have an activate. You already know what it does when I activate it. So I'm going to activate everything at the end because we lost enough time already. So once we've configured our ports, we can configure our SIP account. Let's go to SIP. And here, once again, I just click Add and configure it. For a SIP account, we have to give a little bit more information. So here we can say SIP account. We just call it the way we want. Then here we put the IP address to where the gateway has to connect. We put a username. Authentication user, we can use the same. It depends. Display name, depending on the display name you want to put. Here I'm not going to put anything. And then the secret is the password. And finally, you can either register your gateway to the SIP account you have, or the SIP account registers on the gateway. Usually IPVXs register on the gateway and not the other way around, but for 3CX we have to register. This depends. You just have to know it or try it. Let's save it. And then once again you have to activate. It is usually yellow activate, but as we configured the ports before, it's still orange. So let's activate it to see what happens in our state of the gateway. In this case, to answer Mr. Kumar, it is indeed the 3CX server IP that I just entered in my gateway in order to connect the gateway with the 3CX. If we go to management, here we see that my ports are red, my FXS port is green, and the IPBX connection is also red because I still haven't created the SIP account inside of the 3CX. In the server here on the registrar part, you have to put the IP address of your 3CX, but in this case, I still haven't created the SIP trunk inside of the 3CX. That's why it's still red. Then the last idea is to create dial plan rules in order to connect our gateway, so our ports, BRI or FXS, with our 3CX. In order to do this, we just go to dial plan, and here we add some rules. So we can do different kinds of rules. Let's start with very simple rules. So we choose the direction from SIP to analog, for example. I'm going to choose ISDN. I can choose the kind of SIP account I want to use. And then I can choose to which port I want to send it. Here I have one port, one group with 2 ports, so I just send it to the whole group. Let's see what it does when I just save. So it says here, when I have a call coming from my 3CX and it's calling anything, then it has to go to my ISDN, to both of my ISDN. So here what we just created is all the calls coming from my 3CX will be routed to my ISDN lines very easily. We have some little information that just appeared here. When you don't configure your rules more than that, you have dot star between clammers and then \1. Here it means when I dial anything, the number will appear as I dialed it. And when I dial it from any source, the source will appear as I want. So here I can change the caller ID, and here I can change the number I'm calling. Sometimes you need to do so if you want to call as anonymous, for example, or if you want to send only some digits to your PBX, or if you want to add a international format for the number. It depends, but we can be very flexible here. So we've just created a rule from SIP to ASDN, and what we can do, and what we should do actually, is to create the other rule saying the contrary, everything coming from my ASDN lines has to go to my SIP account. So we just add another rule. We choose ASDN to SIP, and then we choose from both of my ports to my SIP account, and we save it again. So here we created two rules saying any call coming from my ASDN lines have to go to my 3CX, and the other way around, everything coming from my 3CX has to go to my ASDN lines. Question is, where do the FXS ports come in? In the 3CX installation, sometimes we have an old fax in the company, and we don't want the fax to go over the 3CX. We want the fax coming from the ASDN lines to go directly to my FXS ports. In order to do this, we just add a rule and say anything coming from my analog, port 1, is going, other way around, sorry. Anything coming from my ASDN lines have to go to my FXS. And usually you have a certain fax number. Let's say the fax number, it's the 119. You precise when somebody calls 119. And then you have to put it in the first position in order for the rule to be applied. I activate it. And then let's analyze what we've just done. What we have done here is saying any call coming from my ISDN line, and this call has to dial the 119, then it goes to my analog port. If I had put this rule behind the ISDN to SIP, then it would never have been able to apply, because the dial plan works in such a way that the first rule, the dial plan checks which rule can apply, and it starts from the first one, from top to bottom. So it says, okay, the call is coming from ISDN. Is it calling 119? No, so I go down. Okay, this rule cannot apply. This rule applies then. So the more specific rules have to be put at the top. Okay, so I just showed you how to configure a beroNet gateway with a 3CX, but in a manual way. Now let's take a look at a automatic configuration directly from the 3CX. So in order to do this, you need to have your 3CX web interface, which is here. And what we're going to do is simply go to voice over IP and PSTN gateways and add a gateway. Let's add a gateway. It's a bit long. Okay, let's give a name to this gateway. Let's call it beroNet gateway, also very original. Next. Then we just have to add the IP address of the gateway, 172.20.29.101. Then the port, usually it's always 5060. I leave it as such when the gateway is not connected to the internet. Otherwise, it's better to change it in order not to get attacked. Press next. Here is the part where you configure your credentials. So I'm going to do something very easy. I'm going to take the authentication ID and put it the same as the password. It's something that you should not do, but in order to be faster, I will do it like this. And here the idea is that you can also copy and paste the information, which you cannot do after. And what we have to change here is also the numbers of channels, because we have 2 BRI inside of our gateway, so we can do up to 4 calls when we want to call via the gateway. Then we press next. And the next page is to configure a rule to tell the 3CX when do we want to call via the gateway. This is something that you define in your 3CX. I'm not going to go into specifics here, but you can just say each time I call 0, it goes to the beroNet gateway. We press finish, and here we have some information that we just configured. We have a small overview of what we just configured. So here we have the IP address of our 3CX, and here we have the credentials of our SIP account. Now let's just click on Configure beroNet Gateway. Another window opens. And then we can directly change the information of the gateway. We just have to fill this page, and then we can move forward. So here what we have to do is add the ports that we want to configure inside of the gateway. Let's put both of our BRI ports. Here we can choose if we want to have a connection point-to-point or point-to-multipoint. This is something that you have to ask to your carrier. So we have both, but let's leave it to point-to-point. And those are configuration that can change depending on your ISDN provider as well. So we're just going to leave the way they are. Here we can also configure the FXS ports to say, like I showed you before, each time I have a call coming from my ISDN ports calling the 119, it has to go to my ISDN, to my FXS ports. And finally, we have to add the credentials of the 3CX. So we add this IP address. As I told you, we cannot copy here, which is a bit sad, I think. So we just have to put it here, 0.20, 0.11, 0.10, I think. No, 10.11. 10.11. And then we have here the authentication that we chose. And here we have the password. Let's just save. Okay. And here it asks us to log on the gateway as well. And finally, we just have to activate the modification we created because here, as you see, this is the old configuration we made. So I'm just going to activate the red one. It will reboot the gateway, and then it will apply all the modification we made. While it reboots, do we have questions, Jeffrey?
I think that most of the questions were addressed. However, the question here, the FXX ports, will you configure the extension with 3CX? Maybe we could dive into that while it's configuring a little bit.
Yeah, I will go more into details regarding the FXS ports on the third point of our presentation when I will configure the FXS ports as intern extensions of the 3CX. So it will be soon done because here we are at the second point, and soon it will be the third one. All right, the gateway just came back up. Let's log in. And the telephony services still have to go up. So in the meantime, I can show you where you can find some help. First of all, in our wiki, we have a lot of information. You just have to know how to look for it. In the beroNet documentation, we have lots of information regarding the different technologies we offer, and especially regarding the dial plan, how to make the rules, how to change the rules and everything. So I will really encourage you to go and take a look at this part. And the other very important part that we have inside of our wiki is the how-to part. You have lots of information, mostly in English, and for those of you who speak French, some here in French. All right, let's go back on the gateway to see what it did. Let's refresh it. Okay, so here we see that a lot has been created thanks to this auto configuration from the 3CX. So once again, our BRI ports have been configured. still red because we still haven't plugged anything to them. The FXS ports are connected as well. And we have a CP count between our beroNet gateway and the 3CX. We have to take a look now at the dial plan, what we created. So there are 4 rules. The 2 rules saying everything from the ISDN goes to SIP and everything from SIP goes to ISDN. Here they are. The name have been changed a little bit because the 3CX wizard just applied the names he had. And here we have the same rule. Everything coming from ISDN and dialing the 119 goes to my analog, and everything from my analog with the new source, everything from my analog port 1 goes to my ISDN, and it shows the source 119. This is something that I didn't do before, but you can do it like this as well. Well, that's how the wizard from 3CX works. As you can see, it's very easy to use, and you don't really have to understand how the gateway works. I think it's better to understand. That's why I showed you the manual configuration before, which also helps you when you want to change some of the parameters that the 3CX wizard forces on the gateway. Well, let's go to the third point. The third point being, how do I configure a beroNet FXS port as an extension of the 3CX? Because what we did here, as you can see, this rule doesn't take the 3CX into account. It's only the gateway saying everything coming from my port goes to this other port and vice versa. Here we want to make sure that if I have a hotel with 32 FXS analog telephones, I want to be able to make them all call outside and call each other. So in order to do this, we first have to create extensions inside of the 3CX. Let's go here. No, not here, sorry, extension. Let's add an extension. It's gonna offer me the 102. What I'm gonna do, and what you shouldn't do, is put 102 in the password as well. Do not tell 3CX support that I showed you this, because they're usually not happy at all when people do this. But it's a presentation and it has to be fast and easy, so I will just do it like this. Okay, so we have once again a little overview of what we just created. The IP address, the user, the password, and everything. So we're just going to create the same in our gateway. We add a new thing. We put here 102. The server address is still the same, 0.20.10.11. The user is 102, and the secret is 102 as well. We register it once again, and we save. One little trick here: if you made a mistake in your credentials and once you've corrected it, it doesn't appear green inside of your gateway or 3CX, it could mean that your IP address has been blacklisted by the 3CX. They're very strict on this part, so take a look in the blacklist section. It happened to me once during a presentation, and I didn't feel I had a problem with it. Okay, so now we have an extension that has been connected. So the 102 inside of the 3CX is connected inside of the beroNet gateway. Now what we want to do is connect this 102 extension to our FXS port number 2. Very easily, what we're going to do is create a new dial plan rule. Well, actually 2 dial plan rules. We add one rule. Okay, we choose from SIP to analog. Why not? But we have to choose the right SIP account. And here we want it to go to this one. But we want this port to ring only when this SIP account calls 102. So in the destination, I put 102, as I did for my fax, and I put in the first position in order to be sure that it works. And of course, I create the same rule after, the other way around. I choose from analog, port number 2, to my SIP account, SIP 102, and I can also say whenever it calls, I want it to be shown as 102. So in the new source, I put 102. And I put it in the first position as well in order for it to apply. Okay, and activate, and that's done for one port. So as you can see, depending on the number of FXS ports that you have, and depending on the number of analog telephones or fax that you want to connect to the 3CX, you have to create the same number of SIP accounts, and then 2 rules per SIP account. It's a bit long. That's why we are developing a wizard in order to make it faster. But once again, wizards are very nice. We all like them. But it's also very interesting to know how the gateway works and what's the idea behind the wizard. So I just showed you how it works, and yeah, that's it. Okay. I see that we have some questions, and we have a bit of time. So if you have questions regarding what that presented and everything, please ask them. We also have a poll that we wanted to use, and I will use it before I forget. Poll in progress, so it worked. Okay, so we have different questions. Do we have a IPsec on the beroNet gateway, branch resiliency, capability? I don't really understand what the question is, Mr. Kumar. So I will activate your microphone so that you can ask the question and might interest everybody. And I hope I will be able to answer you. Okay, Mr. Kumar, I activated your microphone.
Okay, hi Jen. So branch resiliency is like if I have a multiple branch environment where I have a main site and one branch site. In branch site, we install one beroNet gateway which will route all the local calls to the main PBX system. Now,
Okay.
in case the connectivity between the branch and the main site breaks, the users in the branch should be able to register call through the gateway. So that will act as a branch resiliency device.
Okay, like a backup system in case the internet connection fails and your telephones aren't able to register on the PBX.
Correct.
Yes,
Correct.
You can do this. It's not directly out of the box. You have to add apps to our gateway. We have possibilities of adding apps to it. And the way you do is you go to management and make a firmware update. And then you just have to look for the apps. So we have different apps that you can install, and then it enables you to connect your telephones directly on the gateway and to say when there's a problem, the telephones register back as a failover identity on the gateway in order to call via ISDN or analog, for example. But it is possible.
What is the name of that app?
I can send you an email afterwards to send you all the apps because you have to install 3 of them. You can find those apps in GitHub beroNet, and you just find them here. Okay?
Okay.
Very well. I will try to think of sending you this with a little how-to on how to install them. Okay? Do you have other questions? No? Perfect. I can mute you again. Okay, another questions from Mr. Kumar again. Thank you again for your questions. How do I show the logs of the gateway? Well, as you could see here, I think we disabled the logs, so you can enable them in the preference logging, I think. Here you can access it, activate it. Otherwise, what we usually ask you when you want to have help from our support, we have very good support, but in order to have quick answer and comprehensive answers, you need to send as many information as possible, of course. So what we have is a full trace. The idea of the full trace is it helps you see what happens on the gateway during an amount of time. So usually when you ask for the support, you're not able to make a call, or the call doesn't work the way you want it to work. So what you have to do is send us a trace of such a call, and then we can see what is wrong in the configuration. If it comes from the SIP configuration, if it comes from the ports, if it comes from the dial plan, anything. I hope I answered your question, Mr. Kumar. There was another interesting question from David regarding the T38. Yes, we support the T38 in order to make fax over IP. Thanks everybody for answering the poll. It's very interesting for us. So we have other questions, do we? No other questions for the moment. Well, I think we are done. I will send you the presentation, of course, but oops. At the end, you have our contact details. We all use the same address, sales@beroNet.com. So if you have questions regarding what we just saw or any other questions, please do not hesitate to contact us, Jeffrey or me. Jeffrey also knows very well the gateways and what we do at beroNet. Oh, one last question from Mr. Kumar. How many maximum ports we can have on any beroNet gateway? Well, good question again. Let's go back up. If we take a gateway or an appliance or a card, we can see that we have 4 connectors. Depending on the modules that you put, you can use those 4 or you can use less. In our case, we had 2 BRI, 2 FXS. So port 1 and 2 were BRI, 3 and 4 FXS. But we have 2 module slots, so we could put 4 BRI and 4 FXS. If you do so, you have 4 connectors, but then you need 8 ports. So what we do is we give you splitters in order to split each connector into 2 ports. So we can have up to 8 FXO. We have one gateway with 16 FXS in order to connect as many analog devices as possible. We can go up to 4 PRI and 8 BRI. Okay. I hope I answered your question once again. If I need to use 16 PRI, how can I achieve that? Well, if you need 16 PRI, then you can use 4 of our gateways, with each time 4 PRI on each gateway. Of course, you can then connect all the gateways all together inside of the firm, connect them via the network. When you use the appliance module, do you have the same IP address for the 3CX system and the VoIP gateway? No. Our BRI, our PCIe card on the appliance, which is this one, is recognized as a network card, which enables you to give it another IP. So the network card is configured as a gateway, even though it is inside of the appliance. So it's 2 different IP addresses, which is also very easy to configure. It's just like the gateway, more or less. Last question: the cards are field replaceable or not? Yeah, if it's your question, you can change the cards inside of the gateway or the appliance. It is the modularity of our solution, which means you can open them, change them the way you want, and install them again, which is also very useful for our partners because they usually have some stock. Just in case one gateway fails, they can just come with another gateway and replace it. So they don't have to stock every gateway. They stock one with different modules, and then they can. It helps. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions. So thank you all for coming, and especially for staying. We will be in touch. I will send you all the information we just saw, the presentation as PDF, the link for the video, and if you have any questions, please call us.